Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth, and fancy seeing you here. And you are very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Welcome back to Big Mouth, and you can keep this conversation going with me over on my Twitter at Movies TV Mad. So pop on over after this video because I want you to watch this video. Every time I open my mouth, it's important you're watching and listening. I mean, look at me. I'm perfection. I'm only joking. I only fancy myself just a little bit. Let me just take a look at myself. Don't I look beautiful? Anyway, yes, welcome back. And I think if we were in a movie era where everything was rosy, there would be no fandom menace. There would be no release the Snyder Cut movement, would there? There wouldn't be. Just look at the release the Snyder Cut movement. Why does it exist? Because a studio took a film someone was making, screwed it up, tore it to pieces, and tried to stick it back together again. Ridiculous, right? And I mean, how can you get someone like, they were telling us Joss Whedon was just there because Zack had lost his daughter. He was literally, whatever he did was going to look exactly how Zack wanted it. How is that possible? The mentality of storyteller are so separate and different. But that's what I'm saying. If this era was like the era that we grew up in, and I speak about that a lot, and I suppose maybe I'm looking at our era of movie making with rose-coloured glasses. But I think those rose-coloured glasses are coming off, and I'm seeing things quite clearly. But if we are in an era where there are great auteurs, great directors like Coppola and Scorsese and Michael Mann, and I can go on and on and on, then we don't have the Snyder movement. We don't have the fandom menace. How did the fandom menace get created? How were they able to make so much money through all these YouTube channels, right? How are they so popular? Because forget their politics. Their politics is irrelevant. The real point is, they became popular. The rise of the fandom menace is even more fascinating than the rise of the release the Snyder Cut movement. Both fascinating movements. I don't really think one has any time for the other, especially the fandom menace don't like us on the release the Snyder Cut. I'm kind of part of both movements now, which is really, really interesting. But as I say, when you look at how the fandom menace was created, it's very interesting. And I do look at these things and I do kind of analyse them. Because I was just literally laying on my on my bed, not yet, don't be dead yet. But I was laying on my bed and I was thinking about the fandom menace and the release of the Snyder Cut movement. And I'm thinking, if studios knew how to make films and run franchises and knew their jobs, these movements wouldn't have started. And the fandom menace really started after the Last Jedi. Now, I think The Last Jedi was the straw that broke the camel's back. I think everyone was beginning to get restless with the SJW, with the political element in films now, and the identity politics. That's the big thing, pushing identity politics more than a good story. You would think that they could have good representation and tell good stories and give you great escapism and great films at the same time. But obviously, they can't. So the rise of the fandom menace is the most interesting thing because, yes, it was The Last Jedi was the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, I remember watching, and if I remember rightly, weren't Justice League and The Last Jedi out in the same year? Am I wrong? Anyway, I remember going to see Justice League in the cinema and being absolutely heartbroken and depressed. And I remember it must have been the December of 2017, if I'm right. I went to see The Last Jedi and thinking, well, at least Disney and Star Wars ain't going to let me down. And I remember coming out of that movie thinking, there's no hope. There's no hope. I love DC. I love Star Wars. And they both let me down. And when I finished watching The Last Jedi, I wasn't thinking, oh, I don't like these SJW identity politics things. I was thinking, this is a really crass, boring movie. And I think what really kills this movie is that moment in the Falcon, in the end, when they're all kind of, we've done well, we're all smiling at each other. Ray gives Poe fuck me eyes. All of a sudden, I thought she wanted to shag Finn. What's going on here? I'm confused. And if I'm confused, you must be confused. So by the end of that film, I just felt nothing happened in that film. Nothing of any consequence happened in that film. And we can look at what they did to Luke Skywalker, which was a contributing factor, of course. It was ridiculous. But it's the whole film really just seemed like a nothing. Now, I was upset by that film, or disappointed, should I say. I never expected the eruption that happened, the eruption that was the fandom menace. So very quickly, I started to discover YouTubers like Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, Mauler, world-class bullshitters. And I quickly realised that they were all Trump supporters, they were all right-wing. Now, I didn't agree with that politics, but what I found very quickly and very interesting was, because I have friends who are Trump supporters and I'm not. I have people who are right-wingers. I'm not. I think it's important to say that you can have friends who have, opposite opinions to you. So what I quickly found out from the fandom menace was that they were speaking a lot of truth. Apart from their politics, from their point of view, that's right. From my point of view, they're wrong. And that's fine. But get away from the fact that they're Trump supporters, that they're right-wing. If you listen to what they have to say, it's very, very true. And it's shocking, really, because they're quite intelligent people. They're really talking about what we think. They're saying what we think. And that's what's interesting to me. And as I say, if we were in a great era of Hollywood movie making, these movements would never have risen. I think Geeks and Gamers apparently has got more subscribers than Collider. Is that true? According to Jeremy, that's true. If that is true, congratulations, Jeremy, mate, because that's insane. That really is insane. But I do like both these movements. I do support these movements for one reason and one reason only, because what the fandom menace are saying is true. And of course, what us in the Release the Snyder Cut movement are saying is absolutely true. We were betrayed. Zack Snyder was betrayed. His daughter Autumn was betrayed. Everyone was betrayed by this big shark. That's a movie studio. A movie studio I've always loved and supported. Warner Brothers. And what they did to that film was terrible. And that's why we're begging them to release the Snyder Cut. And really, it should have happened already, because surely, like us, they don't think that monstrosity should be the version of Justice League that everyone remembers. And if you release the Snyder Cut, that won't be the case. We are in an era of Hollywood that has gone insane because a crazy, insane guy has become president when it shouldn't have happened. And they've reacted to that. And they've attacked white men in their 40s. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. Is it my fault or your fault that Trump is in power? No, it's not our fault. But we're being attacked by Brie Larson. It's insanity. They have taken the movie and TV industry, something that we loved, adored, something that gave us escapism from our dreary everyday lives, and they've destroyed it. They spoilt it for us. It's not there anymore. They don't seem to be able to make good films. They don't seem to be able to make good TV anymore. And it's a very, very sad reality. But this is how the fandom menace was born and how the Release the Snyder Cut movement was born. Now, I follow a lot of people from both movements. And I think it's quite interesting when you see the videos, when you see what people have to say. And instead of looking down on people from these movements, you should actually listen to what they have to say. But because whatever their politics are, the truth of the matter is, on both movements' side, they're making a lot of sense. These are people who have put thousands and thousands of pounds, dollars and euros into the entertainment industry, and we are being betrayed because they want to push an agenda, a political agenda, and it's ridiculous. They think that representation and gender equality are more important than the issues facing real people today, which is hunger, starvation, drug addiction, mental illness. They don't think those issues are important, and that's why they attacked the Joker movie. That's the truth. So I think when we look at this and we analyse this and we analyse the rise of the fandom menace and the Release the Snyder Cut movement, that is not a judgment of the people who are involved with these movements. It's a judgment of the lack of quality coming from Hollywood.